Hey everyone, welcome to another Spin Reviews interview, and today I'm here with an artist that I've talked about on Spin Reviews before. On the previous Underground Corner, I talked about his album Default. Now this project is back with a new album called Hectic Matter that just came out. Please welcome Ben from Cascading Elephants. How you doing, man?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, so for the people that don't know, could you give a little rundown of the history and just like general sound you'd expect from Cascading Elephants?
Sure, my style is heavily based in electronic music. My new album, Hectic Matter, is definitely inspired by bands like Animal Collective, Aphex Twin, bit of a Swans influence from their new album in there too. I like to kind of combine intensity in intricateness and all with kind of like an electronic vibe going on.
And that actually kind of leads into the questions I was going to ask. So I noticed the biggest difference between this album and Default is that, well, that one did kind of went for more of like an indie pop approach on a few songs. Here, it's a lot more instrumental, a lot more electronically driven, not really a lot of the guitar soloing that was on the last album. What really led to that decision?
A lot of things kind of went into that. Mostly it was kind of a shift in what music I was actually listening to. Before, around the time I was recording Default, I was mostly into kind of rock music. Like, I'd listen to a lot of the Black Keys at that time. I was into the Beatles a lot then, Led Zeppelin, a lot of the classic rock. Just getting into Radiohead around that time. And on this album, I was listening to more kind of experimental stuff. So I think definitely what I was listening to kind of guided me for this.
Yeah, and I actually think it was a good call to make it more instrumental and production dependent because my main gripe with Default really was kind of in the vocal production that kind of clashed with some stuff. Here I think that it all kind of meshes together a lot better. And it's funny you mentioned that the more like experimental influences going into this because I'm hearing a lot of like new wave, a lot of some even like house music influence, but especially on a couple tracks, I'm almost get the feeling like this could fit in the soundtrack of like an 80s B sci-fi movie, you know, with some of the synth tones.
Oh yeah, totally. I actually didn't think of that till right now.
Yeah, and I mean that most complimentary way, by the way, especially on a song like the 8-minute song toward the end of it, Matter, that goes in a lot more of an ambient direction.
Cool, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
One more thing, since this album is almost all instrumental, I'm always curious with artists that make albums like this, where did some of the song titles come from?
So the song titles are all based on things here in Baltimore. I live in Baltimore, I have for my entire life, and they're all based on things either that kind of mean something personally to me or are kind of a general Baltimore thing. Like, for example, the song Roland Park is named after the neighborhood in the suburbs of Baltimore. And the song "Bloom" is named after the Beach House album, since they're here from Baltimore too. They're one of my favorite bands, so I just kind of wanted to give a little shout out to them.
So when can we expect some nice, fresh, all-time low remixes?
I'm not sure. I have a couple remixes in the works. Over the summer, I did some remixes for Dan Deacon, who's based here in Baltimore. I remixed Feel the Lightning and Learning to Relax from his new album. You can find them on my SoundCloud page.
Okay, cool. Now, the one thing I like to end all my interviews with is by asking usually what are some of your favorite albums of the year so far, but seeing as it's in the first couple weeks of January, that might be a little hard. You haven't listened to the new David Bowie or Rachel Platten by any chance?
I actually just listened to the new David Bowie today for the first time. For all the way through, that is. I loved it. It really ranked high for me. I love kind of the odder direction he's going in. I thought a lot of especially the drum playing on this thing is really kind of intricate. I like kind of the hip hop direction it's going in.
So, guys, I strongly recommend checking out their album, Hectic Matter. It's definitely a step up from the last album, I think. So if you're really into like electronic music along the lines of the stuff we've been talking about, then definitely give that thing a listen. And thanks for talking to me, Ben.
I think I read somewhere he was inspired by the new Kendrick Lamar album.
So guys, I'll just leave the links for Cascading Elephants stuff in the description down there. Also, if you're new to this channel, like my Facebook and Twitter pages in the description. Feel free to watch the other videos I'm doing on here. I'm kind of being a lot more productive this month, so definitely be on the lookout for more videos in the near future. And hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spinner Reviews. just general sound that you'd expect from a. I almost said Cage the Elephant, but do you get that a lot?
I get that a lot, yeah. Actually, I think you mentioned that in the review in March of Default, how to not to get the name mixed up.
Right. Yeah, I